Okay, it is 11:30. We are a punctual group here at the CD Foundation online meetup. Thank you for everybody for showing up on time. We appreciate your punctuality. I am Tracy Reagan. I have been hosting the CD Foundation's online meetup for quite some time. We took a hiatus and just had one or two last year, but this year our goal will be to have a monthly one. And we're super excited to have Pyrsia as our first one for January of 2023. For those of you who have been following the CD Foundation, you will have learned that Pyrsia is the newest open source project that is incubating at the CD Foundation. It was brought to us by JFrog. For me, it's an interesting project. I have been in the build management space most of my career and have struggled with why we don't have a better way to really manage the builds. Steve Taylor and I, back in the late 90s, started a company called Open Make Software with a product called Meister, and we really focused on creating repeatable builds and being able to track the source code that goes into it. JFrog has taken this now to the next level. And that is what Pyrsia is. It's really shows, it's a good first step in securing your software supply chain, in particular, understanding your packages and open source that you're consuming. And on that, I am going to introduce Sudhendra Rao. He is, I would say he is the mastermind behind Pyrsia. He manages the project, does a lot of coding, and probably is the most involved individual in this project on the planet right now. Sudhendra, why don't you take it over? And I'm going to go just a little bit of housekeeping. We do treat this like a real an online meetup. Everybody on here is able to talk. So if you want to raise your hand, I'll be watching it. If you just want to say, hey, I have a question, please do that. Or just post a question out on the chat and I'll be happy to make sure that it gets answered. So don't be shy. If we were all sitting in the same room, I know you wouldn't be shy. You would just raise your hand and say, hey, that doesn't make sense. I'm confused. If that happens to you, please raise your hand, speak up, because this is the place to get questions answered. Okay, yep. Sudhendra, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for such a warm welcome. And I wouldn't say, I wouldn't go far as saying I am the mastermind. I'm probably the one to execute it. A lot of things, a lot of ideas do come from Steve Chen, who sort of envisioned this and took some of the learnings. But I'm really passionate about where we are going and why we are doing it. And thank you, Tracy, for giving the background that this was attempted in the past. People have had similar issues in the past. So that helps me, contextualize where Pyrsia comes from. Just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started on the talk. Since this is like a meetup, feel free to turn on your video and make faces to tell me that I'm not doing well. That's fine. If you want to use emojis on the chat, give me that feedback. I love that. We can stop and readjust. And like Tracy said, don't hesitate to just call out and ask questions. Okay, so let's get started. So we are going to talk a lot about open source supply chain in the talk the presentation that I have. I promise a few things. I'll say Happy New Year at least once or twice. You'll probably see some superheroes. Maybe you can identify with one or many of them. And I'm hoping that the problem we are going to talk about, the open source supply chain, resonates with you, and you are facing that. If you have not faced that, then you will get a feel for what is happening in this area and how it affects real people. So let's get started. If you're interested in following me, I'm at Sudhendra Rao on Twitter. So let me present the state of supply chain today, and it is pretty bleak. And when I say supply chain, we are all aware of the supply chain that affects us the most is Amazon packages not being delivered on time and our gifts taking a long time. And it has been 2+ years where that still continues to be a problem for one reason or the other. But that is not where my expertise is. My expertise is in the other area, which is the software supply chain. And right when the pandemic hit or around that time, this was the most talked about software supply chain attack and the affected parties, right? And this has affected so deeply that today a ton of government properties may still be vulnerable to this attack that was exposed during this breach, where malicious code was introduced into an end package, and that package was shipped or pushed to production or deployed using a CI mechanism, a CD mechanism, and some of that people know where it is, and some of that people don't know. And the reason it happened was because there were no checks and balances in terms of how that binary package ended up with those vulnerabilities, and some actors, man in the middle actors, basically compromised it and injected code that could open up ports and allow them to attack those systems, right? And there's a lot being said about this. There was a congressional hearing about this, about how it affected, and some of the things that the CEO of SolarWinds said at the time resonated with the community in general. And community has started reflecting on what it can do to prevent similar attacks in the future, and to start thinking about this problem in a different way. This was not the only attack. Way back in 2017, Equifax had a data breach, and this was because they did not patch, Apache structs to the latest version, which had the vulnerability fixed. And even today, I receive mailings that tell me that my data or my addresses or home addresses from that time are still out there, and people know who I am, and they send me, either a credit card request, or send me a loan application, and so on, right? So I know that I am one of the affected party, and I know that many millions were affected because of that. And that's because the supply chain was not keeping the software up to date, and not keeping track of what is being deployed. This is what was happening last year. When I say last year, in 2022, when the rest of the world was fighting Omicron and dealing with the virus and its spread. This was what was happening in the software supply chain world, right? Log4j, our favorite logging tool, was compromised, and that basically hurt the entire community. And when I say entire, it is actually a significant part of the community that uses Java or Java-like languages that run on Java. And that actually taught us a number of things. One of the things was that it is really, really hard for open source teams who really want to contribute and give something back to keep on maintaining this, to keep track of these vulnerabilities, fix them, release them, and make sure that those are trustworthy. And actually, some burnout happened for these developers who were trying to respond to these attacks or to these vulnerabilities. Rust, the language that was built to overcome all the buffer overflows and all those memory issues, and provide much tighter control over how memory is used, which is how many of the attacks manifest. It's one, somehow they cause a buffer overflow or memory overflow, and then they try to execute code that they like, right? Rust has these vulnerabilities, and this one is just typo squatting, where the name is changed a little bit and they introduce code. But this can happen to real software, and this can affect your supply chain. This was this year. So Happy New Year! This is what is happening in this year with Rust, right? And again, this is denial of service attack. If you're not familiar with hyperpackage is a dependency. It is a transitive dependency on the HTTP package that Rust has, and so it is basically anybody who is trying to do anything with the internet with Rust is affected in one way or the other. We still don't have a fix for it, although people have people now know about it, and they can do something in their own environment to provide fixes until the vulnerability is fixed. And how easy is it? Here is a recipe that is published, and people have used this, and attacks have manifested with this recipe. You can take over the ownership of libraries or open source software and just do whatever you like with the community. Similar thing happened when the maintainer of Faker.js got disillusioned about how software is being used and open source and how much effort he needs to spend. He just ripped the carpet under us, where he replaced the code of Faker.js with basically no op code, which was not useful, and the community had to come together and build a fork, and now that is the one that they agreed to support, right? So all of these things are real. This is happening, and this affects software, which is now everywhere. And these examples I have are just the tip of the iceberg. There are way more things. If you are looking at if you're looking at the CV databases, you'll find a lot more of these things happening. Some of them have limited radius that they affect, and some of them affect deeply and more widely as well. So the question that people come up ask is, who do you trust? Currently, we trust Ruby Gems and Python, PyPy, and Maven Central and all those and npm to give us the packages. But is that enough? Are there situations where and there have been where malicious packages have been checked into and committed to these through verified means, and I showed you that even those means can be attacked. So we need a better mechanisms to build that trust. So essentially, we are still living in the world where we are taking a thumb drive from the sidewalk and plugging it into our production systems. And today, as opposed to 10 years ago or 15 years ago, today those production systems actually affect real people even more so, because our healthcare data is on it, our energy data is on it. Everything runs on software. So this is even more big of a problem today. And so, just giving you a little bit of highlight into what has happened in the last 2, 3, 4 years. A number of these things were under discussion and people were aware, or they were increasing awareness, but a lot of things got more focus since after the SolarWinds attack. There has been an executive order to produce processes and practices in place so that we know what is going on with our software supply chain, right? And now there is an awareness. When we actually go to communities, they actually talk about software bill of materials. They're aware of those things. There's still a lot more education to do, but there is growing awareness of these tools, and they're starting to figure out how to put them in practice. And there are researchers who have spent their time in investigating how these software attacks happen, and here is a very simplified model of how current supply chain looks like. And even in this very simple model, there are so many network parameters that can be attacked, and the network can be taken over, the chain can be taken over, and it is bad. And the way the SolarWinds attack happened was it started with C, where this modified source control after it was committed, and then it went to the supply chain and it was deployed, right? But any of these these vectors are attack vectors, and we need solutions that can help us work through these attack vectors and stop them. So what do we need actually? So at JFrog, we actually are very passionate about DevOps and delivering software, and we believe that the future is where we'll have liquid software, where it is updated frequently. It is as fluid as liquid is, right? And for that, we need something that is automated. We cannot have people do it all the time, right? You'll just spend all your day and night just deploying, and that's not a fun job for anyone. Plus, that is error prone if there are people doing it. We need something that is trustworthy. We need sources, and we need to be able to verify that information in a way that we can trust, and attach that trust certificate, and carry on with deployments. And we need something that is dependable, and which doesn't have the what do you call SLAs that NPM had, where NPM, for example, and this is just an example, but this has happened with other repository packages as well, where they go down, and that basically stops the whole supply chain, right? And we can't have that. So we are looking for a solution that can provide all these things and or check all these boxes. So let me allow me to introduce Pyrsia. Pyrsia is a project that will do all of these things. It will have a consensus based build network. This is an attempt to fix the issue that SolarWinds faced, and I'll talk a little more about it. Pyrsia will also have a provenance log that you can query and automate. And Pyrsia is also going to be decentralized, so that there are no single point of failures and no network partitions that allow stop the supply chains from delivering to the production, right? So let's dig a little deeper. So by bringing these ideas together, we hope to build a secure, a reliable, and open network. We believe that since this is a problem that affects open source, and we don't have a solution that everybody trusts, and we believe that this is something that the community should take over, should take control of, and that's how we can build trust, and not have individuals or not have these decisions made by individuals independently. And that is what bringing these all together will bring the trust in the network. Where does the name Pyrsia come from? So Pyrsia comes from a historic reference where Greek armies or kingdoms would use a set of torches to communicate of impending attacks or dangers, and they used to do this from mountaintops, and they had a code to figure out what the set of torches being lit or not lit meant. And we thought this is a good way to have distributed or decentralized communication mechanism. Pyrsia is a decentralized package registry. So this will be a good metaphor, and this will be a good name for Pyrsia for the project. If you want to learn more, there's more on Wikipedia. So let's look a little bit about the structure of Pyrsia. So Pyrsia is basically built on a peer-to-peer network. So it does not rely on the central repository structures, and the network is resilient to any network failures. It will have high availability just because it's based on peer-to-peer, and because it is based on peer-to-peer, and we have done some initial inroads into this. We will also be able to use that to provide you higher throughput. So imagine that you want a really large binary that you're trying to download, and it is coming all the way from Docker Hub, and you have to rely on the connection to Docker Hub you have. But instead of that, if you have a number of Pyrsia nodes that are near you, they have already cached it, they can stream that on multiple channels to you, and you'll have that same binary much faster. The other aspect that Pyrsia allows is on this distributed network, we will also have, and this is something we already demoed, and it's starting to take more shape for different ecosystems. Is anytime Pyrsia, so anytime a binary is added to Pyrsia, it will be added via source. So Pyrsia, you can submit the commit hash of the latest version of log4j, for example, and then Pyrsia will go and build that. And Pyrsia will pick nodes at random, so that again the network, the attack surface is reduced, and those random nodes will go and independently build them in ephemeral environments, produce results. They will verify those results to make sure that they are the same. Hence, we really want builds to be reproducible. And then once they have verified it, then the result will be committed to the network, and that binary will then be available on the network. Now you know that it was built by these 3 nodes. And it's not just, you're not relying on, it works on this one developer's machine. That developer built it and published it to Maven Central or Ruby Gems or whatever, right? So now we know that it has been built by 3 independent systems. and there is more trust in there. All of this information will then get committed to what we are calling it as a provenance log, which is basically an immutable ledger, which will have the information about the binary, how it was built, and why you should trust it, and then it will also have tertiary information about what are the dependencies, and Pyrsia will build those dependencies and so on, and thus try to secure more pieces as they come into Pyrsia. Right. This provenance log is automatable because we have a CLI that allows you to search through this. You can make your own decisions, saying, give me the latest version of Log4j, tell me what vulnerabilities it has, tell me if they were fixed, and tell me if I can push this to production. And you can write automation for that. You can pull that data and make the release decisions yourself, and not have to depend on somebody saying somewhere that, oh, Log4j 16.1 is the latest and greatest. You will have previous versions on this as well, and then you can decide on whether you are ready to upgrade, not ready to upgrade. If you don't upgrade, what are the repercussions? All that information will be on this log. And this is powered by an immutable ledger which runs on a blockchain and is distributed across all the network, again, so that it is tamper proof. So once it is written there, you will have it and will know if anybody has tried to mess with that information. So it is easy to install. All you have to do is follow the instructions on the quick installation. We have installers for Mac OS, Linux, and Windows as well. And you can continue to use the same tools that you have been using before. So, for example, we support Docker today, and we are working towards supporting Java. We have a prototype implementation for Java, but you will continue to use Docker pull image, and then what Pyrsia will do is it will sit between you and Docker, the trusted Docker registry, and pull those images and deliver them to you. And once they have been pulled once on the network, they will be available on the network for anyone else to pull. So if you are working with a group of developers, which is usually the case, once you have downloaded one version near you, you can share it across the network without having to go all the way to Docker. Right. Same thing, even in case of Maven, you will have the ability to pull stuff off of Pyrsia. Whatever comes off of Pyrsia will have the provenance log information, so you can verify where that thing came from. Think of the same way in the way where we look at the list of ingredients and how it was processed, whether these were free range chickens or that produce the eggs, and what kind of additives were added. All of that information will be in the provenance log. So now you know whether you want to use that or something else. A little bit about how this software is coming together. We already have an integration that works with Docker, so you can pull and build Docker images. We are working towards Maven and Gradle integration. Similarly, we have an API that allows you to interact with the interfaces of Pyrsia and build an integration for the language of your choice. So if you don't find something that you are interested in, please flag it to us, and we'll start either writing things down so that you can develop it yourself and submit to the team. We are encouraging contributions that way, and we can also help you build that. And also we can adjust our flow to make sure that the APIs work in the fashion that you are imagining for your ecosystem as well. So there are a few things that we have assessed that we need to make sure that the security model is intact and strong. So one of the things is that there are ecosystems where it is possible to have reproducible builds, and there are ecosystems where it is not. And for the cases where the reproducible build model exists, the network consensus is what we are going to do and make sure that it is rebuilt on Pyrsia, certified, and you have all the provenance information. For builds that, or for packages that do not have a reproducible model, like Docker, for example, it is hard to build that. What we are doing is we are building it on Pyrsia and attaching it to the Docker image and verifying by testing to to see if there are any differences, and then falling back on the trusted registry. So we are relying on the trusted registries to give us the certified versions, and we are only picking the open source verified versions of those images instead of the entire registry. So that keeps the attack surface low, and also builds the trust. And when we get requests from people to include packages that are not already on Pyrsia, we will rely on the multi-factor authentication and other verifications that repos like GitHub and others have, and then we'll also invest in providing extra layer of security, and we are investigating using both Sigstore and Notary like interfaces, so that there is an additional layer to ensure that we are getting the source from the right place. So how do you get started? It's really simple. Just apt-get install Pyrsia if you're on Linux, and then there are similar installers for Mac OS X. You can just do brew install Pyrsia and Windows as well. And you don't need to change your CD scripts. You can just continue to use Docker pull, and the Docker images will now be delivered faster via Pyrsia. Same thing will hold when we have the Maven integration in. For real, we do have a prototype which you are welcome to use and give us feedback. Let me pause and see if there are any questions.
Hendra, there is one question out there in the Q&A. I believe Steve is answering it live.
Okay. I can kind of talk to it right now. So the question has to do with from Alan. Let me go ahead and read it. Many open source developers have been pushing back hard on the supply chain designation as being fundamentally the wrong way to look at dependencies and ownership of problems. The phrase "I am not a supplier" has been used to point out that the use of software does not also include the resources to support it. And this is kind of your point around that one node package.
Yeah.
That the developer finally got frustrated and wasn't getting any credit or help, and he just abandoned the project, and everybody has scramble on that front because you use so widely. So the basic question is there anything that Pyrsia is going to be able to do to help with these types of issues where you have an open source project, it's maybe one person that's doing a lot of the work. It's, the same thing happened on the Log4j side.
Yeah,
I think there's one developer that was responsible for Log4j, and he basically got slammed.
Yep. The same thing, yes. And the same thing happened with the faker.js guy. He's like, I can't do this. I have a life, and I don't derive any financial benefit from supporting Faker. So he basically used the word "screw you." I don't care about all the community, and I'm going to just do whatever I want. And Pyrsia cannot solve that problem of burnout. What Pyrsia can solve, though, is building. So let's say this person did something malicious with their own software, right? Pyrsia can build that and give you the provenance log saying that faker.js was 500 KB yesterday. There is a new version which is 10 KB, right? Now you have the tool in your hand which tells you that there is something missing, there's something wrong. You can stop. What happened with the automation is people deployed it into their testing systems, and things just stopped working because all the tests that needed a fake user and a fake username and a fake user profile all went bust. And then the community had to come together, spring together, and form a group and fork it and all of that, right? And what we are saying is, let's not do this on an individual basis when it comes to build and CI and dependency management. Let's come together as a community, invest in Pyrsia, make Pyrsia the thing where you can add those abilities and support this as a community project. And we know, like, for example, and this is in the open, where the SolarWinds CEO said, we need to build 3 infrastructures which are similar, identical, to verify, which are identical and independent, to verify every single binary from now on. And that's what they're doing. And what we are saying is, let's not all spend money in building those individual identical systems for our own organization. right? And verify our own software supply chain systems. And that's what we have been hearing from the community as well. Like they try to invest that and build their own CI/CD for the entire supply chain, and there are limits in terms of how much you can spend and the output you'll get. So Pyrsia aims to be the community effort, the same way we have put all the community effort in building these open source software. Let's make sure that the supply chain is built once and it's trustworthy. So we cannot fix the problem of the burnout of the Log4j developer, because that's not the area we operate in, or we can't help fund them, and that has to come through community and other efforts, and where more people, as they get affected, come together and say, okay, we can't have one person being the core committer, we need more, and maybe we can support them. And there are other ways to help these people who are actually doing good work, but and maybe they can derive some monetary benefit and keep their work-life balance and sanity. But Pyrsia can help with the other side of it.
Yeah,
So-
and I think because of the Pyrsia transparency log, the provenance log, that you can attach something like open policy agent against it to, like you said, if there's a case where all of a sudden we have a big change in size of an artifact, that could be a policy that we want to go and investigate,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information that Pyrsia is going to be persisting, and because it's historical, you can then start looking at trends that are occurring with the different packages that you're dependent upon,
So
and make policy decisions around that. Go ahead, Alan.
Sorry, I just noticed the mic was enabled. So I put a suggestion in the chat, and it puts the Q&A. It seems to me if you built a reliable tool like this, and great plaudits and credits for you for doing this. You have all the tools you need to create a way of inverting the telescope, if you will. We can actually create reports for developers of things that depend on their software. And then, of course, it's up to the individual developer to go to whatever large corporation and say, hey, you have deployed this huge piece of software that's dependent on my package. And, I don't want to explore all the sociology here, but, would you like to actually participate? So the tools like this can actually help with both directions of visibility.
Excellent. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And one thing that we are definitely being careful about is not to provide a list of all the companies in the world that are using Log4j to a hacker to go ahead and say, here's your list of companies, go start banging on their door. Like you said, inverting the telescope will only go so far, where we won't go into a individual companies and saying, we know that you're using this package. But if you look at from the inside the company's point of view, looking back out, am I consuming this? We would be able to answer that very quickly.
Yes, these are excellent points. I just think there's room for more work here. For example, you could leave it in the hands of the company using this tool to say, hey, do we want to develop a relationship with the event developers we depend on?
So, yeah. I will give. I think we are jumping to my next slide, not just this one, where we actually are working on an IDE integration, and we just did a demo last week. So if you are interested, Alan, and would like to see how it is, there's a video on YouTube. But that kind of is a way to put the power in the hands of the developer, and they can see within their IDE, even before they are ready to use it. Pyrsia can give all this provenance log information to them in their IDE, and they can find out their tertiary dependencies and what is happening there, and whether they want to use that or not, right? So that is one way I think we can use your same concept of giving them the telescope, but now it's in their power. Instead of us telling them that this is what you're doing, they can do it themselves. And the way the IDE integration works now is it just looks at what the developer has running on their own system and gives them some flags to act on, right? And then they can make those decisions. So putting the power in the developers is totally within the scope of Pyrsia. Now, how we manifest it depends on what the community asks for and how we move forward with it. But yes, so we are totally aligned on in that way. Any other questions? I saw one more person. Or no? Okay. Neetu, did you have a question that you wanted to just blurt out? We can do that. Okay. Okay. So what I was talking about is, how we are building Pyrsia and what we have so far. We are using libp2p, which is the framework for doing peer-to-peer communication and data transfer. It is built by the same people who are doing IPFS, the Interplanetary File System, and it is open source. We are lucky to have a Rust version of that, and it works really well for us. We are investing in using LFBFT for a real consensus mechanism to build for the build and verify. We have a provenance log which can help you do all these things. There are more automations that we are envisioning are coming. You can do a wider search, you can narrow your search, and so on. We have started building binaries on the network. It will be slow to start, but as it gathers steam, we'll have more and more binaries certified on Pyrsia. And Happy New Year. This is my second Happy New Year. We have an IDE integration coming soon. We already have a demo version committed to a prototype branch that if you are brave enough, you can use it and tell us how things are. We do have a YouTube channel, Pyrsia OSS, which where we put all these videos and demos so that people can come in and engage. We are already using other open source technology and committing back to them. And we found issues with initial implementations of libp2p. We have been engaging directly with them and sort of helping them fix that and sort of presenting the case of Pyrsia why we need to rely on that. We are also working with the Rust Foundation just to make sure that we get the support that we need in terms of our Rust learning and getting the right support in terms of supporting Pyrsia going forward. Everything that we are doing is public. If you are on the CDF calendar, you can find our meeting invites and so on. You can also find all of that information on our website, pyrsia.io. We are a number of organizations are coming together to contribute to the infrastructure that we need to host this. We have been sort of explaining how we are building it. So even though the network will be wide and spread around, we still would like to control how things get committed and certified, and that will be controlled via what we are calling as authoritative nodes or authority nodes, and those will come from the core organizations that are participating to form this network. So it won't be that hundreds and thousands of nodes are trying to come up with consensus as it is in the case of vanilla blockchain cryptocurrency stuff. And we don't think that is the right way to spend community resources and burn energy, and it's not sustainable either. So if you're looking for us to ask questions or engage, find us on the CD Foundation Slack. We are on GitHub, obviously. Find us on GitHub, easy to find. If you want to get involved without writing code, there is all kinds of things you can do to help us. Download and install Pyrsia, put it into your CI flow, join team meetings, and bring ideas like this, Alan, whenever you feel appropriate. We have recordings and things we are discussing, and also design documents out there. If you find something that you want to contribute via design, we would welcome that. If you know a lot of cryptography, we would love to have you as well. Not the cryptocurrency side, but the encryption parts and parts where we can learn from how that side of the world works. Now we have some expertise. We are always looking for people to hold a mirror to us and tell us what we are not doing well. We have a bunch of good first issues you can come and fix, and they don't all involve writing code. If that's not what you want to do, you can help us in many ways. And just a reminder, this happened last year. Well, not really. This happened 2-3 weeks ago. Whenever we talk about Pyrsia, people talk about, oh, why is signing not enough? Why is signing? There is this project, that does signing, and that will solve all the problems. Well, here is why. Because signing can be taken over. There are security mechanisms already on GitHub, but they were taken over, and Okta was compromised. Okta has been tight-lipped about how much they were compromised, I guess, to protect themselves and all the people affected.
I heard it was it was the whole source code repo, the private repo for Okta was compromised.
Exactly, but their public facing PRs press releases have been that not much was compromised and they got it under control within hours. But what happens in those hours, right? Once you're compromised, your data is out there. So this is happening, and this is one of the reasons why we can't just stop at saying that we have secured our GitHub, we are good. We need to secure our GitHub, we need to secure our source, but there is so much that happens after the source that needs to be secure and trustworthy as well, and hence we are doing Pyrsia. So just some statistics. This is happening even more so even during the pandemic. This was going up, and we need to secure it now. So if you're waiting for something to work on this problem needs your help today. That's all I had. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions or all questions.
Thank you so much, Suhendra. That was pretty amazing. I just want to kind of point out that when I say we, it's the larger IT community, have somewhat ignored security, or maybe we put it in a category like testing. It's the redheaded cousin down the street. That we know they're there, and we're still trying to remember that we've got to give them love and attention. Security, it's time that we give them a lot of love and attention. They absolutely must. We must, as a community, start thinking about how to address the security issue. We're in a different time now, and it has to be included in all of what we do. That may mean that you have to update your CD pipeline, so be it. Tools like this and other tools that are hitting the market, other open source tools, are there to start solving this problem. And it's automation is key, and it means that the CI/CD pipeline must evolve. We have to really start thinking about ourselves as not just DevOps, but DevSecOps. And that's I'll just say that as a closing. This is critical. We have to start addressing it now. And if there are no other questions, I want to thank everybody. Oh, there is one. Let's see. Oh, no, there. I want to thank everybody for coming today. This will be posted as soon as possible up on the CD Foundation's YouTube online meetup site. And if you're part of the meetup group, the link will be sent to you. If you have your teammates who may not have been able to attend but need to understand more about security and some of the new tools, we would ask that you pass this around so folks can start learning. And Alan, thank you for your very interesting conversation. We appreciate the comments and the dig in. And Suhendra, thank you again. You did an excellent job. And thank you, Steve, for pitching in.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you next month. Watch the meetup for announcements about the next month's meetup. Thank you.